Another I wake up on winter to take over summer. They late to the party cause they over summer. Alright, niggas stay over yonder.
That's what I came here for. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and say this now. This season finale was a letdown. It was a letdown. It sucked. I don't know why. I think they just had to have an 8th episode for like, I don't know, even numbers or something. But they should have ended the season on season 7. Then had episode 8 be like the starter for season 3 or something. I don't know. But bro, they should have ended it on Vhagar fleeing from goddamn Rhaenyra. But didn't happen like that. So we went out to wait another 2 years. I'm not gonna lie, I think they already teased the little Game of Thrones Night of 7 Kingdoms. So I guess that's gonna like hold people over until then. But bro, it's gonna be 2 years till we get season 3 House of Dragons.
It's really extraordinary being surrounded by such scale.
Oh, look at that. Season justice, I hope. It's good. Let's see the breakdown though.
I'm Eric Voss.
I'm Eric Voss.
Of House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 8, the season finale. Damon's crazy Game of Thrones vision is what I see every time I look at anything on this show. So I'm gonna
get into it when Damon gets there, but that vision whipped Damon into shape so fast. And I ain't gonna, Damon through the whole season 1 and season 2 of House of Dragons, Damon been an ass. Bro, Damon been like, you feel me? He been having this little trying to get the crown in his sneaky ways, building up an army, acting like it was for Rhaenyra, but actually the army was for him. Make sure they pledge allegiance to him. Then they had the dude on the court fled treason and fled loyalty to Daemon instead of Rhaenyra. You know what I mean? I'm glad because Daemon saw that vision and realized that he was not a big factor in the story at all. Nigga was a piece this whole time. His whole thing was you feel me? The wife of Rhaenyra to continue the bloodline to get the Daenerys, and he finally found out that like he just gonna die a soldier. He gonna die in the battlefield doing what he loved, and that's all he said.
Gonna break it down, and sure, why the hell not every scene of this episode for all the details you missed, deeper layers of meaning and secrets in the music, and as always, any plot details from Fire and Blood that could come up in season 3, I'm gonna save those for the spoiler dungeon at the end.
I ain't gonna lie. The spoiler dungeon low-key ruins, because apparently I heard some, I ain't gonna get into it, but I'm gonna skip the spoiler dungeon, because like that's when they start talking in the books, and I don't want to get into all that.
This video. It has been so rewarding to analyze every episode of House of the Dragon Season 2 with you all, and to celebrate this journey, grab one of these House of the Dragon inspired shirts at nerdriot.shop. Jessica, John, and I actually met someone with a blood and cheese shirt at San Diego Comic-Con, and it really made our weekend. Okay, the hanging rat catchers have finally been cut loose, but now we get a new angle of the Battle of Rook's Rest in this opening tapestry imagery, and remember,
I repeat that. So they cut the
end of it, the rat catcher stands between Sunfire and Meleys holding up the sword. So all the dragons beneath Sunfire and Meleys must be other dragons. And remember, I did break down all the dragons that exist during the Civil War period in this video. So we start with this new bluish grayish dragon with dark wings surrounded by a golden ring with spires radiating outward. At first I thought this might be Dreamfire, the dragon of Helena, a character with perhaps the most surprising reveals about her in this episode, as she's not just a dreamer or a green seer, but also someone working perhaps in tandem with Alice Rivers to affect the signs and portents witnessed by Daemon throughout the magic of the Weirwood Tree.
They were saying Helena was a secret member of Team Black.
Action, Helena has far more connections to the other characters than we realized. One of these spires connects with a golden dragon. I think this is Syrax, Rhaenyra's dragon. I think all the dragons behind her are one of the dragons of the Black's faction. There's also a chance that this first bluish grayish dragon facing Syrax is more gray than blue, and it might be Sea Smoke, Adam of Hull's dragon, and this could be restaging the moment that they met on that sandbar in episode 7. I only say that because going forth from here, it's kind of hard to make a case for any of these other dragons being Sea Smoke, and if he's not this one, he would be missing from this lineup. But this next one we see is a dragon with orangish wings, and I guess you could say a body a shade of green, because I think this is Vermax, Jace's dragon, who would be a smaller one right beneath Syrax's wing, and right behind that one there's a dark dragon with red wings. I'm not really sure, but based on the size and position and just the general redness, it could be Caraxes, Daemon's dragon, but the neck isn't that long, and that long neck is why they call Caraxes the blood worm. But in this wider
get in, loser, we're going shopping.
Caraxes is a cool ass dragon.
Right, I can
shot, which I thought showed those two at the top. I now think the dragon up front has wings red enough and a neck long enough that that one could be Caraxes. I'm just not sure. Vermax at the end of the day is smaller than Caraxes. But then the next shot shows a silver dragon and a bronze dragon that must be the two dragons claimed in episode 7, Silverwing by Ulf the White and Vermithor by Hugh Hammer. Vermithor is the Bronze Fury, and this one's definitely the Bronze Fury. We saw these dragons when they were younger in their lives, ridden by Jaehaerys I and his wife Alysanne earlier in this tapestry sequence when their heads were by Maegor the Cruel, who was dead on the Iron Throne, and their bodies were down by those riders when Jaehaerys took the throne after him. Behind those are two more dragons, one with pinkish wings. I think this might be Sheepstealer, the brown dragon in the Vale found by Rhaena.
I like the design of this dragon. This dragon looks cool. Like it's all like tattered and like it has like that what's that disease? Alopecia. And I like the protrusions out of the wings. It's a cool design for a dragon. It's very cool.
After running around the hills for a while to tense, mischievous music. I like its design on the show. They gave it pink splotches on its wings. That could be a nod to the dragon that Rhaena hatches in the book, the pink she-dragon named Morning. The other dragon I think could be Rhaena's sister, Bela's dragon, Moondancer. Just kind of makes sense that these two sisters would be beside each other. So you see what I mean? If that first one wasn't Sea Smoke, we don't really see Sea Smoke anywhere else here. Now, among this faction's dragons is also Tyraxes, it's Joffrey's dragon, currently in the Vale, and Stormcloud, Aegon the Younger's dragon, who would be on the Gay Abandon with him at this point. But, you know, those dragons are both very small. I don't think they would be in the historical record at this point. Now, before the black threads leading toward the Iron Throne oozed like black fluid, but now they shoot upward to form what I think is the shape of Dragonstone. So the tapestry began with the blood mages and the human sacrifices of ancient Valyria, and the bloody lineage reaches its destination in Dragonstone. So we open this episode in Tyrosh, one of the free cities in Essos. In Fire and Blood, this meeting with the High Council of the Triarchy goes down in Tyrosh, but it's actually Otto Hightower representing the Greens instead of Master of Coin and Master Ships Tyland Lannister. Tyland was sent here by Aemon's request to find a naval option to break the blockade of the Gullet without having to wait for the Lannister Navy or the Greyjoys. Tyland's ship, with Aegon II's green sails with the yellow dragon sigil, looks bulky and weary compared to the smaller, faster ships of the Triarchy forces anchored closer to the shore. I believe this is the first time we have seen Tyrosh in live action, and the show lets us know that we are not in Kansas anymore with a rhesus monkey, aka a rhesus macaque, that's native in our world to South Asia and Southeast Asia. Either way, a monkey in Game of Thrones? That's fun. While Tyland deals with the three leaders in Fire and Blood, the High Council is actually composed of 33 magisters, 11 each from Lys, Myr, and Tyrosh, and I actually think the other 30 sitting around them might actually be those leaders in this room, and they just have 3 designated speakers. The leader in the middle has hair and a beard dyed blue, which could be a reference to Dario Naharis in the book.
Well, I thought we was in a dorm,
blue hair.
but
Since
apparently
this
it
guy's
was
in the middle,
Essos.
and since he would be hosting this in Tyrosh, he
Yeah, I
must
thought
be
we
the
was
Tyroshi
in
leader of
dorm.
these 3.
It was getting
Actually,
like
later
dorm
when
vibes.
Lohar and Tyland mud wrestle, you can see others with hair dyed shades of blue. When 100 golden dragons per man is too steep, the Tyroshi suggests the crown give them control of the Stepstones, which Corlys and Daemon's combined forces won in a series of wars in the first half of season 1. Tyland reluctantly agrees, but he really has to win over Admiral Lohar. Now in Fire and Blood, Sharako Lohar is the Lyseni admiral for the Triarchy. Here the character is played by Abigail Thorne, former YouTuber turned actor who recently cameoed earlier this season in The Acolyte as one of the witches of Brendock. Sharako Lohar is a
good
male
for her.
character.
Former YouTuber turned actor. Good for her, bro. There was people saying, I saw one Twitter thing that she looked like that one girl from what's the kids show? How to Train Your Dragon. I think her name was like Buckwheat or like something like that.
During Fire and Blood, and the
Bro, like the comparison of the two is like crazy.
As male. Abigail Thorne is
She
a
looked just
transgender
like
woman. The show seems to be leaning into Tyland's adjustment of seeing Lohar as a man and just the way the character identifies. And I just kind of like the running theme in Game of Thrones and in House of the Dragon that the cultures of Essos are in some ways more progressive than the cultures of Westeros in most ways except slavery. And later Tyland seems to be a little confused by what Lohar means by taking Tyland to bed before Lohar says to bed all of Lohar's wives. I just love how much fun Abigail Thorne is having playing across
she
from
played that.
Christopher
She
Nolan's
played that role
favorite
very
character
well.
actor in this episode. Lohar says,
Well met, Lord Tywin.
It's Tyland.
yes, Tywin Lannister would be a family member further down in Tyland and Jason's family tree, the Tywin Lannister from the Game of Thrones era. Lohar asks if Tyland is a poet or a philosopher, which might be a nod to Abigail Thorne's past as the host of the YouTube channel Philosophy Tube. A close-up of Vhagar's nostrils includes the blurry heat waves to emphasize the heat as the fire continues to glow in her throat and smoke billows out the side of her mouth. She and Aemond have just finished burning Sharp Point, the town at the end of Massey's Hook in the Crown Lands, the seat of House Bar Emmon, who we learned in season 1 episode 10
right next to
declared for Rhaenyra.
Dragonstone.
But this attack did not lands the seat of House Bar Emin, who we learned in season 1 episode 10 declared for Rhaenyra, but this attack did not happen in Fire and Blood. It makes the version of Aemond in the show far more villainous. We hear the wails of the Bar Emins, and we see at least one victim running around on fire, and then we cut to another one of Aemond's victims.
He just did that just because he was
Aegon
mad.
II.
Old Spice Gentleman Super Hydration Body Wash. Vanilla and shea. 24.
The Alien King asks Orwyle for rum, one of the sweeter liquors, and while his melted eyelid has opened, the pupil beneath looks melted in his eyeball, rather like one of the marble attendance balls that has been a literal pain in his side. Larys advises him to flee King's Landing now that Aemond has gone nuts, and Rhaenyra has found 3 new dragon riders, to which Aegon says,
What was the f***ing point in all this then?
it's so sad to think that the one silver lining he clung to was that maybe his injury has also led to Rhaenyra's side losing one of their dragons and dragon riders. But now both he and Rhaenyra's son Jace feel useless by Rhaenyra just packing her numbers this way. Larys says that if they try to push out Aemond, Rhaenyra would descend on him with her 7 dragons. So those 7 would be Syrax, Caraxes, Sea Smoke, Moondancer, Vermax, Vermithor, and Silverwing. Later, Corlys only counts 6 because he isn't yet sure if Daemon is with them. Larys says that he transferred his family wealth from the Harrenhal to the Iron Bank of Braavos, which is why Sir Simon Strong didn't have the money to improve the castle this season. Aegon finds the idea of living abroad a joke.
You want to take me to Essos to live with the goat f***ers?
I ain't gonna lie, bro. I was low-key sad. Like, I was getting low-key, because, like, I hated Aegon for, like, but really, bro, low-key, bro, what's crazy, they gonna get into it, but Alicent literally did everything to get this stuff, because, like, bro, if you remember in season 1, Aegon didn't even want the crown. He really didn't want it. It was until Alicent kept bluffing up his head, was talking about, you are the destined prince. Your father named you. And then he was like, okay, my mom said, yeah, I'm gonna do it. Like, bro, and it's crazy. And then I hope they're gonna get to it. But Alicent turned out to double back on her word once again after doubling down 2 different times. And then the 3rd time she went to Rhaenyra talking about, you know what, you can have my son's head. Like, bro, it's so crazy. Alicent, I ain't gonna, bro, I wish the worst for Alicent, bro. It's just the fact that she misheard Viserys, then doubled down, and then costed her son injury, the whole 9 yards, and like it's just, bro, it's crazy. It's just so wild. I feel bad for Aegon, bro. Aegon was talking about, did you know my cock burned in the fire? I can't even piss without it running down my leg, bro. I ain't gonna lie, I was sad. I was sad for Aegon, bro. I was, cause like, bro, he didn't even want the crown until his mother like tempted him, like, you are the destined prince, and like, it was sad to me, man.
People of Qohor who worship the black goat, which I brought up in past breakdowns in reference to the goat Daemon keeps seeing. Now I think that thing might be something else. Larys responds,
It's best to live, I think. However you do it.
I pointed out before how he echoes Tyrion Lannister, appreciator of cripples, bastards, and broken things, and this line reminds me of Tyrion's line to Jaime in the 2nd episode of the series.
Death is so final, whereas life is full of possibilities.
Aegon says that his dragon is dead, which is interesting because Sunfire is still alive in the book, but I don't know why he would think that or anyone else would lie to him, so I think the show might have killed off the dragon instead of leaving it wounded. So hey, Lord Mooten going to retake Rook's Rest might not end in an, oh shit, that thing's still alive after all. Aegon says that his bits burst into flame like a sausage on a spit, reminding us of Ramsay Bolton using a cooked sausage to taunt the castrated Reek. Earlier this season, Aegon struggled to come up with a proper moniker.
Bro, don't call him Reek, bro. That's Theo Greyjoy, man. Bro, I feel so sorry for Theo. Theo, he got his little happy ending at the end, but that man Theo got way too much than he deserved, man.
And now Larys offers him some options. Aegon the Victorious, Aegon the Peacemaker, Aegon the Rebuilder, and finally Aegon says,
Aegon the Realm's Delight.
The Realm's Delight is what Rhaenyra was called back in season 1. Tom Glencarny lets his injured face give off the slightest tick of a smile. He has been so good in the 2nd half of the season. Jace finds Ulf and Hugh at the painted table, Ulf sitting in Rhaenyra's seat at the head of the table, feet on the table, stomping all over where the wall would be. Ulf has no manners.
Look at that hair. As dark as they say. Let them tell us we don't have Targaryen blood, eh?
Oof, Ulf! He insults Jace for being a strong bastard, and losing credibility with other bastard dragon riders is exactly what Jace feared would happen. In episode 3, Ulf actually toasted Jace this way.
I'll tell you who else doesn't have silver hair. The rightful heir to the Iron Throne, my nephew. Prince Jacaerys Velaryon.
Ulf claims to be the half-brother to Viserys and Daemon, a bastard son of Balon, which would make him a great uncle to Jace. Jace says that if Ulf hinders them in any way,
I will see you hanged and your body fed to the dogs in the street.
In our very first shot of Ulf earlier this season, we saw him looking up at the hanging bodies in the street, and Cheese's dog waited beneath his corpse, which I think was also so that starving dog could eat.
There's no feeling quite like finding a new mobile game you love,
fuck?
and that feeling only gets better when
look
featuring
at
epic
Skinny.
lose and the
Startings have Tessarion, and discusses next
3,000 food and a daily summon token to start your journey.
Rhaenyra discusses next steps with her hand, Corlys. He reminds his queen that besides Vhagar, the Greens have Tessarion in Old Town, Alicent's fourth child, Darren's dragon, which just took to wing last episode, and we see at the end of this episode.
Yeah, okay, so apparently, yeah, Daron is Alicent's other son. I'm not sure if that's Viserys or something. I don't know who. I'm guessing it's Viserys. So apparently she had 4 children. I guess one of them went to Old Town, which was good. But yeah, I guess the Greens have what? 3 more? They have 3 dragons. They have Vhagar, Tessarion, and Dreamfire. But Helena not trying to go to war.
They also have Helena's dragon, Dreamfire. Rhaenyra remembers that Dreamfire was hatched when the Conqueror was king, and that she's formidable. We saw Dreamfire only once, when Aemond as a boy tried to claim her in the dragon pit after being humiliated with the pink dread, but Rhaenyra actually took an egg from one of Dreamfire's clutches, and that is the egg that she put in the crib for her unborn baby brother, the egg that Daemon stole and took to Dragonstone.
To get started in data analytics, you don't need previous experience or a degree. The Google
I don't
Data
want to get
Analytics
started in data analytics.
Corlys says that he's ready to depart.
Let our foes beware, be they Lannister or Greyjoy.
Man, he really does not see the Triarchy coming. He also says that his repaired ship is no longer the Sea Snake, but rather is rebuilt and named the Queen Who Never Was, after his late wife's Rhaenys' nickname. But he kind of brings up the Ship of Theseus debate here. How many planks and parts of a ship can you replace before it becomes a new ship? Similarly, how many dragon riders can you sub into your ranks before your arsenal of dragons is no longer one you fully control? Last episode had a 3-minute long take following Hugh through the chaotic Dragonmont. What I find more impressive is a long take without hidden VFX cuts, like the West Wing style walk and talk following Daemon throughout Harrenhal here. They're showing off a real big set with lots of turns and extras. We followed Daemon talking to the River Lord about how his sheep were sold upriver, so he's providing pigs instead. I wonder if these sheep
I didn't realize that was
flying over from the Vale, which wouldn't be that
I
far
didn't
away.
realize
And
that
then
was a
without
one
cutting,
take. That was
Daemon
pretty
bumps
cool.
into an armorer to flirt with stealing his sword, and then he runs into Sir Alfred Broom. As Sir Alfred asks for a word in private, he does this little pat on the shoulder of this passing soldier. It makes me think that he might have gone around chatting with the men to see where their loyalties lie before telling Daemon that he should take charge. So in the Godswood, before the Weirwood Tree, Sir Alfred promises to never serve the traitors or the whelps of Old Town, leading to what I think is one of the most interesting moments this season.
But there are battles to be fought.
And in times like this...
that was cool as hell.
Did you hear something?
In case you missed it, the closed caption actually clarified that in the wind, Sir Alfred heard a voice whispering the word traitor.
That was really cool.
As this episode goes on, we will see how Sir Alfred's shifting loyalties continue to haunt him. As here, he tells Daemon to betray Rhaenyra, and later when Daemon has a different vision from this tree, he turns down Sir Alfred and bends the knee to Rhaenyra, and Sir Alfred is spooked in that crowd. So whose voice was this? In the behind-the-scenes featurette for episode 7, we learned that the set designers modeled the face carved into the tree on the likeness of George R. R. Martin himself. And of course, Alice Rivers will later take Daemon to that face to see far into the future of the A Song of Ice and Fire series, so we have to assume that it could be her, or the Three-Eyed Raven, aka Lord Bloodraven, or the Children of the Forest, or George R. R. Martin, or all of them whispering.
Bro, there was a Children of the Forest in the episode.
Alfred. Damon says,
he was like in for like a frame.
Sir Alfred.
Aemond tells Ironrod to inspect all fishing boats
He
to stop the recruitment,
didn't
which will only make the
elaborate,
food
but-
shortage worse because fish is the only protein that people are getting, and fully unnecessary because Rhaenyra made it sound like they only had Sea Smoke, Vermithor, and Silverwing available to bond, and mission accomplished. They don't need anyone else, at least for now. Now in Fire and Blood, there are even more unclaimed dragons at Dragonstone, like the Cannibal and Grey Ghost, but on this HBO series, no one else has been mentioned. Alicent gives Helena something to drink. It may just be tea or something to calm her nerves, but I'm wondering if it might be moon tea, that Alicent may be worried that Aemond has started to bed Helena, with Aegon sausage being an overcooked Jimmy Dean. Aemond wants Helena to fly Dreamfire again. We have not seen her fly it since they all departed Driftmark after Lady Lena's funeral in episode 7 of last season. But Helena says, I don't want to burn anyone. And she gives this pointed stare to her brother, indicating that she knows what he did, as she will later reveal that she actually saw it. Alicent snaps.
But you rain ruin and death upon its small folk when you've been insulted, because it makes you feel strong.
Ooh, strong. She levies the word that that he and others have used as a double entendre to insult Jace and his brothers as impure bastards. Alicent asks about Helena.
And who will she be if her mind is broken?
That is really the question the writers seem to have asked about Helena, leaning into her beautifully broken mind and giving her a much bigger and much
I was
more
about to say,
interesting.
because Helena has been acting crazy like the whole season. I thought she was just crazy, like her mind was broken, but apparently she's the three-eyed raven, or one of them, like a dream walker, whatever you said.
And the faith that the book gives her at this point in her life. Alicent says that she wants to prevail, but
Not like this. Not like this.
yes, it's impossible to have a character say that, especially twice, and for it not to be a reference to this.
Not like this. Not like this.
We next see Alicent going to Olwyl's chamber to ask for safe passage in his discretion, but she walks in with scales in the foreground. Scales are an archetypal symbol of justice, legal or cosmic, and this episode is one of the most just that we've seen Alicent behaving this season. We also were reminded of similar measuring scales used by Alice Rivers when we first met her, as she took over the chamber from the Harrenhal Maester who fled into the night. And Alice Rivers seems to be dispensing a sort of cosmic justice upon these characters, or at least trying to see that through by just counseling them. Kristen Cole keeps Alicent's favor, her handkerchief embroidered with an A, also evoking a scarlet letter A for adultery. Shame, shame. Throughout history, women would dab their handkerchiefs with perfume, mostly so that they could hold it over the nose to mask the stench of death or just the stench of everyday life. But it would also give the man they gave it to a kind of scent-based way to remember them. But it is this gesture of smelling Alicent's cloth, I think, that gives Alicent's brother Gwyn a smoking gun that Kristen is definitely banging his sister. But he's been suspecting it since the
It was a hard scene. Everybody was looking at him too.
Kristen reveals that Alicent saved his life twice.
Look at everybody in the background just like watching
from himself. And since
was
then,
hard.
Then she has been the beacon I follow.
Beacon, evoking the House Hightower sigil of the lighthouse. Gwyn tells him to resist the urges.
Oh, would that it was so simple.
Haha, another line that I don't think any screenwriter can write without thinking of the all-time best movie usage of it.
Would that it were so simple.
Man,
Would that it
I ain't
were
gonna lie,
so
bro.
simple.
Everybody
Would that it were
who
so
like
simple.
watching House
Would
Dragon
that
said they
it
all
were
hate
so
Kristen
simple.
Cole
Would
and
that
how
it-
every
would that
character
it
hate
were
Kristen
so
Cole. I'm like,
simple.
bro,
Watch my mouth. Would that it were so simple.
it's
Would
just
that it
Kristen
were
Cole,
so
man.
simple.
That nigga just
I'm
desires
trying
to be
say that,
loved,
Mr.
bro.
Lawrence. Lawrence.
That nigga,
Frankel delivers my favorite monologue
he played
from
his
this character
loyalty
on
to
the series in
Rhaenyra.
this scene.
Or
And
perhaps
when
all men
Rhaenyra
are
turned him
corrupt,
down to like
and
not
true honor is a mist.
what he said,
that melts in the
he was trying to
morning.
trying
I
to
feel
like
this
go
is a
living
stated
like as
theme
a
of all of George
countryman
R. R.
with
Martin's
Rhaenyra,
works,
then
and
he
I just
turned him
love the
down.
alliteration of
Then
the
he went to
mist melts in
Alicent.
the morning. As
He
there's
basically
perhaps some
condemned
unintentional
Rhaenyra
dragon
and all she
allusions here.
was.
Mist referring to sea smoke, morning referring
Because I don't
to
know, bro. I don't hate Kristen Cole. It's just like that nigga. He's just
Vhagar doing at Rook's Rest. Both times
Niggas-
Kristen's
niggas a
heart
simp. I
opened
ain't
to
gonna lie,
women,
he's a simp.
Rhaenyra and
He's been
Alicent was
whipped.
in the nighttime mist, and it was
He's
dawn
been
that
whipped
sobered him after
many
blooded
times.
cheese. But then
From idea to submission,
Feel sorry
empower
for the
students to do their best work with Grammarly's generative AI.
he drops another great line.
The dragons dance, and men are like dust under their feet. And all our fine thoughts, all our endeavors are as nothing.
He says that they march now toward their annihilation, and to die will be a kind of relief. Birds caw as he says this, like the cawing of crows coming to pick at their corpses. He's alluding to George R. R. Martin's descriptions of Targaryen infighting as a dance of dragons, but there's also an allusion to Shakespeare's passage from As You Like It. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. A passage familiar to George R. R. Martin and the writers of these HBO shows, as the mummers of Silk Isle and House of the Dragon Season 1 Episode 4 reflecting history with a stage play, and the players of Bravos in Game of Thrones Season 6. But the second part of Kristen's line, all our fine thoughts, all our endeavors are as nothing, evokes Macbeth's tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow soliloquy, where the king laments, life's but a walking shadow, a
That
poor player
Denzel?
that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound
Like, oh,
and
this
fury,
nigga losing
seen
me,
by
bro. We
nothing.
starting to quote,
Kristen
like,
is now
poems
kind of
and
in the
shit.
J. Robert
What
Oppenheimer,
we doing?
now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds stage of his existence, trapped in existential nihilism. And by the way, I did a fully in-depth breakdown of Oppenheimer from the Deep Dive
I
channel.
still
You
haven't
gotta check
watched
it out.
Oppenheimer.
And notice how before, Kristen used to
I need to
wash
watch
his sword
Oppenheimer,
with lemon
man. It's
salt.
just 3
now he
hours
doesn't
of-
care. He just washes it with a stained rag. And speaking of stains, we go from this slop to lots of slop as Lohar wrestles Tyland and Tyrosh. Tyland finally lets go of his honor and fights Lohar like an equal. Lohar invites Tyland to eat the flesh of their enemies before revealing it was just in jest, which I feel like must be a reference to M'Baku and Black Panther.
One more word, and I will feed you to my children. I'm kidding, we are vegetarians.
In
I'm
George R. R.
kidding, we are
Martin's text,
vegetarians.
only the Thens were confirmed cannibals. Later, Tyland is forced to sing a sea shanty before the Tyroshi, and as someone who spent this year breaking down all of Tolkien's drinking songs lyrics on the Deep Dive channel, and I come from a Navy family, I love a good shanty. Here come my lads, my comely boys, and split your sacks ashore, for you'll be sailing many days afore you get some more. So grease the mast and send it up betwixt the wind and water. Hoist me lads and hoist again, salute the captain's daughter. And I absolutely love this. It's kind of like a dirty limerick competition definition. Split your sacks refers to bags of coins, but also reminds us of Aegon's sausage line earlier, so it kind of feels like, hey, come split your sacks and get an STD. Grease the mast, obviously, an innuendo, and then salute the captain's daughter. It's the kind of line you'd see with the Navy pilots in Top Gun Maverick, how Maverick hooked up with the Admiral's daughter, and of course the Admiral's daughter comes back in the 2022 movie. They feast on octopus, reminding us of the Kraken sigil of the Greyjoys, so in a way they do feast on their enemies here. The people of King's Landing are sick of fish, but here they love seafood as a delicacy. Rhaenyra also dines with her new forces, wearing Viserys' crown and her formal dress with the 2 dragon heads on the shoulders, so that her
dress
own
was
head
hard.
would be the 3rd head of the dragon. She says that they'll be targeting the green strongholds of Old Town and Lannisport. Yes, killing innocents, and that one of them will have to face inevitably Vhagar. Ulf really is being the schmuck at this dinner for schmucks.
A knight will comport himself with grace at the Queen's table.
Best make me a knight then.
And notice how Sir Laurent behind Rhaenyra grabs the sword at the disrespect of Ulf's tone. When Rhaenyra hears of Sir Simon's fears about Daemon raising an army for himself and not for her, she tells Adam to come with her, not Jace, which would be because Seasmoke is a more seasoned battle dragon than Vermax is. But you know that Jace takes it as a slight. He and Baela stare at each other, but in the final second,
bro, see, I wanted Jace to say, let me come with you also. This is like backup. I wish Jace would say that, because Jace he keeps talking about how like, oh, I wish I was better known as the rightful heir, and like, bro, Jace, you gotta have some nuts on you, dude. Like that's your mom. He could have just said, Seasmoke can come along too, but I want to also go as like extra backup, just like to show, you know what I mean? I wish he would have did that.
Kitchen, he just says under his breath this.
Birds.
Yeah, he just goes, birds. I assume that they're like roasted quails or pigeons or something like that. Yes, birds are like a whole thing in this episode. We pull back from Daemon sleeping on his weirwood bed to Alice Rivers sitting on his bedside for who knows how long, and she is crying. Why? Why?
She was crying?
Is she mourning the deaths of characters to come? Perhaps the tragedy at Summerhall, if she is truly the same woods witch brought by Jenny of Oldstones to court? I have another theory down in the spoiler dungeon. She leads Daemon out to the God's Wood, and holy shit, what is that? A little fawn-like creature walks on 2 legs, and if you listen closely, those feet are definitely hooved, as well as there's this animalistic growl.
Okay, guys, take it away.
Yeah, and he showed that for like a good little frame.
Dog sweater.
And not a lot for afterwards.
When it looks back, it has disappeared behind the tree. I think we might be looking at one of the children of the forest, which were smaller fantasy beings who inhabited Westeros and warred with the first men. But it was the children of the forest who used their magic to shatter the land bridge that used to connect Westeros and Essos, leaving the island chain that's there today. The war ended with a pact that was agreed upon by the first men and the children of the forest, where? Right across the lake from Harrenhal, on the Isle of Faces. So I think that island still has a ton of children of the forest, and they are hiding like Keebler elves inside a lot of the trees around Harrenhal. We did see a few children of the forest guarding the three-eyed raven in the far north in Game of Thrones season 4 and season 6, but they were not antlered like this exactly. I wonder if some of the southern children of the forest in the Riverlands could take different animalistic appearances. And now I'm thinking that that goat that Daemon saw might have been connected to these children. And by the way, they're not children, that's just the name that the first men gave them because they were smaller in stature and thought that they were kids. It's also possible that this could be a human from the past wearing an antlered helmet, which may be making this one of the early members of House Baratheon, whose sigil is the stag. So Alice says that there are omens here for those who seek it, and Daemon says that he's no longer feeling inclined to scoff at this, which I think is the signal that Alice needs to hear that Daemon is finally ready to learn what is given to him. This whole season has been her priming him with spooky dreams and visions so that his mind would be more open
that
to this
scene where he was messing with his mom was
the world
wild.
beyond himself and
That shit
his
was
own
nasty.
wants. She places his hand on the trunk of the tree right above George R. R. Martin's face, where the dark sap oozes like blood. Normally, this blood-like sap oozes from the eyes of the face. And remember, Daemon has woken up from dreams this season with blood on his hands. And all season, I've been talking about the dark fluid in the opening tapestry art that is not blood. Now I wonder if that could be sap from the old god's trees trying to seize back control of the narrative. Like Bran Stark when he touched the weirwood tree just north of the wall in the Game of Thrones season 6 finale, Daemon is given this surreal vision of the history to come, well beyond his lifetime. This is crazy, and perhaps the craziest canon breaking thing on this show so far. We gotta talk about everything we see. Okay, we see the black sap oozing through the frost-covered roots, leading up to a sapling entangled in the roots is this figure with silver hair and a wine-stained birthmark. My god, this is Brynden Rivers, aka Lord Bloodraven, and this is a huge deal. Brynden Rivers is gonna end up being the bastard son of King Aegon IV in the future from the series. He ends up being a Targaryen loyalist during the Blackfire rebellions. He serves as hand of the king to Aerys I and Maekar Rhaegar the First, and when the other side ends up taking over, he's later sent to the Night's Watch by Aegon V, where he rises to the position of Lord Commander. Rumor has it he actually takes Dark Sister with him. That's a sword Daemon currently carries, and Bloodraven takes it with him to the Wall. But Brynden Rivers disappears north of the Wall, and he becomes the Three-Eyed Crow, who appears to Bran in dreams, a green seer, someone who can see into the future, taking the form of this three-eyed bird. But in the Game of Thrones HBO series, this figure was known as the Three-Eyed Raven, played by Struan Roger in season 4 and by Max von Sydow in season 6. He uses the roots of the tree to see through time. And while in season 4, that version of the Three-Eyed Raven quotes 1,000 eyes in one from Brynden Rivers in the text, von Sydow's version departs enough that made it unclear if he was meant to be the same person as Brynden Rivers. That was always kind of a mystery coming out of the show, and it was frustrating for book readers that the show never actually just confirmed it and made him the same character. So now this is House of the Dragon correcting that and firmly establishing the Three-Eyed Raven and Brynden Rivers to be the same person, and also part of the same Targaryen lineage as Daemon. Daemon knows that this guy is coming now, and I love that this detail is still a sapling in this cave, as Brynden Rivers would have found it decades before it becomes the giant weirwood tree that Bran Stark finds on top of the cave. And now, currently at this point, even further back in history, Daemon is seeing this tree several generations before either of those characters find it. Now, in front of the wine-stained birthmark, a three-eyed raven flaps, and we push into that bird's middle eye to see from its point of view on a snowy path north to an army of undead led by a White Walker. It has this long silver hair, and since Game of Thrones season 4 established that White Walkers grow their numbers by converting human babies, I wonder if this could have been a Targaryen baby, and maybe the Night King as part of that lineage. That could be why he was able to ride the converted dragon of Viserion in Game of Thrones season 7.
This isn't
Maybe he just turned the dragon into a White Walker, but either one could work. Either one could work.
And again, it is just crazy that Daemon looked into the eyes of a White Walker. Next, we see a dead dragon with a gash on its neck, which I thought might be Caraxes, but its color doesn't look as deeply red, and its neck is not as long, so it actually might be Syrax. It has a long, like, finger claw thing at the end of its wing, which Syrax has. There are other dead dragons in the background. I'll get into what might be happening here in the spoiler dungeon, but Daemon walks past these and past a bunch of human corpses, and mixed in with the blood is more of this black fluid that could be that flammable, oily bile of the dragons, or maybe the sap from the tree mixed in with the human's blood. So Daemon plunges into a puddle of this, and we follow him down. It reminds me a lot of Frodo in the Dead Marshes and Two Towers, because something similar is really happening here. Daemon sinks deeper and deeper into the dark water, and then we see the Red Comet, the sign important that marked the return of magic to the world of Game of Thrones in season 2, interpreted one way by those in Essos, hailing the return of dragons, and by Melisandre as a sign of the Lord of Light. And then we push in on an Oppenheimer-style close-up of that comet that looks like it's burning, but if it's a comet, it would be covered in ice, a song of ice and fire in and of itself. And then we dissolve into the fires of the pyre that Dany walked into, roasting her 3 eggs, which hatch into Drogon, Viserion, and Rhaegal, and they appear behind her naked body here. We don't see her face because they're not going to bring Emilia Clarke for this, but that's Daenerys! These 3 eggs were confirmed to be among those 4 that left Dragonstone with Rhaena, Joffrey, Aegon the Younger, and Viserys, and are supposedly now aboard the gay abandoned ship that left for Pentos. We didn't see the ship in this episode, though. Daemon sees Rhaenyra on the Iron Throne, and for once, it's not young Rhaenyra, it is adult Rhaenyra, which means that he can finally see her adult form sitting rightfully on the Iron Throne as someone he can bend the knee to. But then this voice tells Daemon,
"It's all a story, and you're but one part in it. You know your part."
Yeah, this comes from Helena, proving that she's part of the chain of Targaryen Greenseers and Dreamers. She is speaking with the voice of George R.R. Martin, giving Daemon a meta perspective on his life path and telling him that it is not his story. It's a story that has existed long before him and will exist long after.
And it confirmed that he's just a piece of the puzzle.
Sequence with Helena saying, "You know what you must do." But we cut to Helena actually there at the Red Keep, looking in the northern direction. That voice came from her uttering the words to the wind right here. So many questions from this, folks. Like, are Helena and Alice Rivers working together, or are they both unaware of each other but working altruistically toward the same goal of writing the course of history and trying to influence these men to do the right thing? Are we seeing 2 sources of magic? The magic of the old gods through the weirwood trees, the children of the forest, carried on by woods witches like Alice Rivers, and then the magic of old Valyria, the blood mages, the dragons, and the dreams of Daenerys, and now the dreams of Helena, a song of ice and fire, singing in harmony to save the realm? Or is this all one source of magic that just took 2 different different paths, like the forks of a river. Either way, this completely changes everything we know about Fire and Blood and makes it a far more mystical show that makes me so excited for season 3. And in this moment, it completely changes the power dynamic for Helena's team with Aemond. Even though Aemond is taking a softer tone as he asks her to take on Dreamfire and join him to retake Harrenhal, Helena is ready with a comeback.
Will you burn me as you did Aegon?
That is a lie.
I saw it. You burned him, and you let him fall.
And she hits him with some prophecies that Aegon will be king again, that he sits on a wooden throne, referring to a wheelchair, like the throne that Bran the Broken will sit, and that Aemond will be dead.
You were swallowed up in the god's eye.
A wooden throne. I was wondering why she said a wooden throne.
Now, there are all kinds of things from this part that we just have to wait to talk about more in the spoiler dungeon, but what I love about Helena's line is that she uses the past tense. Like, she tells Aemond, you were swallowed up in the god's eye, and you were never seen again. Like, she witnessed those visions by looking back upon them from an even distant future. It's almost like this might have come from a conversation with a three-eyed raven or with Bran the Broken, even. So Cyrax and Seasmoke fly across the God's Eye Lake and the Isle of Faces, and both dragons shake the camera as they pass. It's daytime now, and you can see far more of the weirdwood trees on the island. This episode really wants us to know that these trees and the children of the forest of the old gods are really at the center of everything. Caraxes awakens to cry out to Cyrax, and the men of the Riverlands and the encampments run in terror past their Tully and Mooten tents. The small folk never really know which dragon is which, and right now they don't know if Rhaenyra and Daemon are on good terms. While Cyrax initially waits outside, she flaps up to an opening in the ceiling created by the burns of Balerion. As she looks down at Rhaenyra, there is a beam of sunlight perfectly on the queen. Rhaenyra talks closely with Daemon in a hushed voice, but when he says that the army is sworn to him not a moment too soon, she steps back and speaks loudly, forcing him to speak loudly in turn.
And to whom are you sworn?
So now the spotlight is on Daemon, and Daemon responds by doing what Aemond did with Aegon earlier in the season when they were in mixed company. He speaks in High Valyrian, but it's not a threat or a power play. It's to meet her where she is and to try to connect with her, because what he has to say, he believes, is only for Targaryen ears. He said the thing!
He said the thing!
Stark
He said
family
the thing!
words and the recurring wording of the Game of Thrones series could feel like a bit on the nose, but the fact that he says it in High Valyrian makes it so worth it. Sonar Amasis. Winter is coming. Daemon is demonstrating to Rhaenyra that he knows the very real threat of Aegon the Conqueror's Song of Ice and Fire, and he knows what it looks like. He even knows better than Rhaenyra or Viserys, or now Jaehaerys knows. The message just came to him in a different way. Him speaking it in High Valyrian to signal to Rhaenyra that it's a precious family secret not meant for outside ears proves to her that he treats this matter like it is dead serious. So this High Valyrian exchange is what makes the peace between the two. Really, the kneel is a performative gesture to follow through with action in front of everyone else watching. He promises to serve her.
Until death, or the end of our story.
He indicates that more important than his mortal life is the role that he plays within that life. All the world's a stage, but unlike tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow.
I was so ready for this, man. It finally had Daemon finally revert his life, bro. Because Daemon was always, you know what I mean, he never had honor. He's never trustworthy, you feel me? He was building this whole army for himself. Then he saw the vision, like, oh, you're just a piece of the board. You have to swore your stuff to Rhaenyra, and like he's back to his good ways, man. Like I'm waiting for Daemon to step up, man. Be the father he never was.
It's not a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury signifying nothing. It's a story full of meaning and hope. As everyone else kneels, notice Sir Alfred is the last one to do so. Daemon rallies the army, and Sir Alfred does not cheer, and he even awkwardly sulks away in the cheering crowd, worried that Daemon will now tell Rhaenyra that it was he who tried to turn him against her. Yikes, dude, just play along for now at least. Meanwhile, Sir Simon, over Rhaenyra's shoulder, out of focus, is just completely stoked. He's like, yes, I'm so happy. With the queen who never was ready to depart, Corlys observes,
Gulls are flying low today.
This was a really good scene acted by him.
Another example.
Also, something he didn't mention. Daemon tried to kiss Rhaenyra like before they started rallying, and Rhaenyra quickly turned away. He was going in for a kiss, but Rhaenyra turned away. And I think that's still similar. That Rhaenyra still likes Missandra, because Rhaenyra goes both ways. Apparently now she goes both ways.
Birds being indicators of shifts of fate. While these two are confident it'll be Lannisters and Greyjoys that they face, they don't realize they are sailing directly into the Triarchy Navy. Alan and Corlys finally have it out over Corlys going years without acknowledging his bastard sons.
Do you know what hunger does to a boy? What grief does?
Or shame?
Hunger, grief, shame. These are three struggles carried by the three new dragon riders. Ulf, driven by hunger. Hugh, driven by grief. Adam, driven by shame. So we're getting this subtle warning that Rhaenyra has welcomed in bastards with chips on their shoulders who grew up in the world not trusting that promises will be kept, and then just growing up in a world where they had to fight for short-term success. Alan recalls seeing Corlys with Laenor with furs around their shoulders shopping for sweetmeats, and points out that Laenor and Laena and the heir who replaced Laenor, Lucerys, are all dead. Rhaenyra watches as two dragons play in the mist. I assume this is Sea Smoke and Cyrax, as this was where they saw Sea Smoke alone earlier this season, and I think these two dragons might have bonded over their recent trip. I would
Every year, Old Spice rescue crews save millions of innocent dudelings from flat, dry, and dull-looking hair. Years of
say it's Vermithor and Silverwing, but they're older and they probably don't bother going out to fly for fun. Approaching them is a ship. This would be Alicent, bravely coming to visit thanks to Orwyle's passage and discretion. So the meetup in Fire and Blood that's orchestrated by Orwyle but fails does end up happening on the show. Another big departure from the text. In retrospect, I will say it makes the clandestine sister act in the Sept a little less necessary, but
yep, cause she just went back on the word, but this is when Alicent doubled down and was like, I'm for sure I heard what I heard. Maybe it was an accident, and then she over here now she acting she doesn't want to be free, and I hate Alicent.
I think it
was
this HBO series.
She literally caused all of this
and
just
scenes as
completely
together so that they can draw a contrast between the two women and maintain a relationship. And in the scene, Alicent confesses that she may have been mistaken, and Rhaenyra asks, "In what?" And Alicent does not confess to mishearing Viserys on his deathbed. She just says that she misunderstood what their relationship was. That she always resented Rhaenyra for freely following her own path instead of staying on the path that was laid out for women like them. And Alicent regrets that because that laid out path could just as easily be taken away by the men who run their worlds. Rhaenyra ends this season in a more powerful position by following her own path. Alicent ends feeling more trapped by her decisions and just desperate to break free. But it's worth noting that although Rhaenyra didn't back down from Daemon, it did take two other women working on him in tandem, Alice Rivers and Helena, and all three of these women together brought Daemon to heel. And in that, I think it's a powerful message that we don't affect change by just overpowering each other one versus one, but finding common goals with each other collectively, and then coming as a group in an intervention to open the eyes of the stubborn. And as long as you got haunted castles and spooky magic trees, you can do anything. Alicent says that she just wants to take Helena and Jaehaera and leave King's Landing, and she even offers to lower the city gates for Rhaenyra. But when Rhaenyra doesn't buy it, Alicent goes back to biting her thumb. That was her classic nervous tick that she did as a girl throughout season 1. Alicent admits that Viserys never stopped loving Aemma, and it was his love for his first wife that made him want to keep Rhaenyra as his heir. Remember, his final words on his deathbed were actually Emma's name. Alicent thinks that she can get Aegon to bend the knee, but Rhaenyra cuts her off, telling Alicent that for Rhaenyra to rule, she would have to take Aegon's head. That's the reality Rhaenyra has had to live with, and she's frustrated that Alicent's hope has forced Rhaenyra to now just become the villain in the scenario. Rhaenyra isn't living in a dream world of her own making. They both live in the same world of violence in which rule is impossible while your successor lives. Rhaenyra repeats,
"A son for a son."
Oh my god, so in Rhaenyra's eyes, the price has not been paid. Luke is dead, but Alicent didn't lose a son, she lost a grandson. But the words that everyone accused Daemon of telling Blood and Cheese as his vague order to kill the young prince, we now see Rhaenyra saying out loud, plainly for everyone to hear. But now what's less clear is the reception, because Alicent just gives the subtlest nod. She's signaling in the slightest way possible that she would be okay with Rhaenyra putting Aegon out of his misery if it brought an end to the overall bloodshed. Rhaenyra says that history will paint Alicent as a villain.
Cold queen, grasping for power and then defeated.
Readers of Fire and Blood know that the historians are equally critical of both of these queens, and really their stories are not yet written. Alicent just wants to breathe the open air and be free, and Rhaenyra smiles.
In the little night dress,
Rhaenyra's from a distant dream.
From a distant dream is how Helena and Alice and the Three-Eyed Raven spoke to Daemon. The only distant dreams on the show really are ones of doom. There are no happy endings, unfortunately. So Ramin Djawadi ends this episode with an incredible score, starting with just piano notes heading into strings, showing every character armoring up. It's quite like the Light of the Seven montage in Game of Thrones season 6 finale. We see Hugh, Adam, and Ulf given armor and Targaryen clasps for their riding cloaks. The forces of Ormond Hightower march, and flying overhead is a blue dragon. This is our first ever look at Tessarion, the dragon of Darren, Alicent's fourth child from Old Town. There is some figure riding the dragon. Tessarion, the dragon of Darren.
Bro, why they got Aegon look like that? Aegon II, Helena, Aemon, and Daron. So who? Oh, okay, so that's their fourth child that was never seen. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Since fourth child from Old Town. There is some figure riding the dragon, but I think that's just a VFX teenager because the show has not yet cast Darren. I think we're gonna meet him in season 3. Meanwhile, at the twins, the Stark Greybeards, promised by Cregan Stark, march across the green
and I was mad because they said Cregan Stark was supposed to show up in season 3, and he was in the deleted scene, but they established that Cregan Stark, he's on the wall, and he just sent the Greybeards because, like, you feel me, they're old. They're probably gonna die soon anyways, but they still fight like Northerners, and you feel me. So it would never made sense because Cregan, he's still protecting the wall in the north, you know what I mean? But I really wanted to see like a Stark, bro. Cregan Stark, bro. And he had like this big ass long sword in the back of his shit too, like, bro. I really want to see Cregan Stark, but like, it made no sense for him to be here.
Jawadi introduces the motif of the House Stark theme music, which is the music we heard in the opening moments of the season. And then we see the forces of House Lannister, led by Jason Lannister and House Lefford, as they march from the Westerlands. Their Lannister lions are in tow, and we hear the Reigns of Castamere music with this group. They approach a river with a fork ahead, and I don't think this is a trident because I'm pretty sure those are the towers of Harrenhal in the distance. And Harrenhal in the God's Eye is much further south than the trident, and they wouldn't have passed the trident to get there. Tyland Lannister joins Lohar in the deck of the Triarchy ship. They are hidden in the rain, the shifting weather that Corlys and Alan were referring to. Lohar's sail has a sigil reflecting the forces of the Triarchy, and all their sails are triangular and are held with rope, not by masts, allowing these ships that are smaller to go faster. Meanwhile, Corlys and Alan seem to be way far behind. They're still just being ferried out to their ship while it's still in the harbor. Rhaena finally finds Sheepstealer, which has a pretty cool design with the pink splotches on the brown and hooked points of the wings. Now, in Fire and Blood, Sheepstealer is a wild brown dragon on Dragonstone bonded to by a character named Nettles, whom I've been talking about a lot in Spoiler Dungeon, and I'm not happy about this change because Nettles is such an interesting character. She's way more interesting than how they've been writing Rhaena to be. Instead, they just kind of erased Nettles and slotted Rhaena in that position to give her a fully grown dragon to ride instead of having Morning Hatch, and she has to wait for that. They're very much changing Rhaena's destiny, so who knows, they might do a better job with her in season 3. Really, she spent this entire episode just kind of running around the hills and like nearly freezing to death outside. And really, that's the most interesting path they could write for her in this finale. But we see Otto in the crypts being approached by someone.
This was crazy. I wanted, what happened to Otto? Because last we saw Otto, he was on his way to Old Town, and he's just randomly in a cage somewhere. I don't know what he got going on.
With the torch. This is very interesting because Otto is not imprisoned in the book. He never left King's Landing after he was dismissed as a hand. He just kind of hangs out. But last we saw, Aemond had told Larys to go fetch him, but this isn't Larys because Larys is with Aegon in the carriage. I think Otto is being approached by his granddaughter, Helena, because they are now writing a very different path for Helena from the book. Actually, the adaptations for Helena on the show are really the opposite compared to what they're doing so poorly with Rhaena and Sheepstealer. So yeah, Larys and Aegon flee King's Landing in the carriage surrounded by birds! Birds again! So
I have such a crazy day today, and I have to
Charlie
remember
basketball
to sign Maddie up
practice.
for driver's ed.
So Alicent's plan to lower the gates for Rhaenyra to take Aegon's head are not gonna work out that well. We end this episode with a series of perfectly edited shots. Alicent faces right, Rhaenyra faces left, so that the queens are staring each other down. Rhaenyra is framed perfectly in the cubby holes of the genealogical scrolls, just one Targaryen in a history of hundreds, and a perfect match cut to Alicent, the same size in the frame, but not boxed in, as Rhaenyra was, yet facing an open horizon as a female vocalist cries out their inner turmoil. You could see Alicent as being ready to jump to her death, but I think it would be a mistake to interpret it that way. I think her longing to breathe the open air has left her alone and isolated and powerless, yet free. Still, freedom can carry its own crushing weight.
Alicent was never like the right person
while
with
Alicent
power,
was
bro.
boxed in the Red Keep, trying to carry out her
she was
royal
always
duties.
driven by
Now
power,
the positions
but
have
she was
flipped, and
always,
Rhaenyra is the one fortified in security, yet unable
She
to
never
stray
stood
out
on
of her
business,
storied
man.
path.
She never
Okay,
stood on
let's close
business.
out with one final spoiler dungeon as we look ahead to season 3. starting with
Nope. I ain't gonna lie. Spoiler Dungeon Daniel spoiled one of the shits for me. I'm good. It was a letdown of finale, but it's hence season 3. You're gonna have to wait till goddamn. Gonna have to wait 2 years for season 3, man. That's it, bro. I'm finna be what age? Bro, I'm finna be 23 when this shit re-releases. Goddamn. Alicent won the power, but not what was needed to get the power. That's facts. Great series. I'm ready. I'm gonna be watching that Knights of the Seven Kingdoms shit. And Last of Us season 2 is gonna drop too. I'm gonna be watching that. So it's not like we're gonna be like out of media, but like, you feel me? You'll be 18. That shit crazy. But good show.